If you're trying to conceive and feeling overwhelmed with fertility advice, then this podcast is for you. Welcome to Don't Tell Me to Relax, your fertility podcast and antidote to unhelpful fertility information. I'm Hannah, a fertility acupuncturist, teacher and campaigner for better fertility education. This podcast aims to empower and inform you about your menstrual cycle and fertility. It's basically all that information you didn't get in sex ed at school, with the aim of improving your understanding of your reproductive health and optimizing your fertility. Hello everybody, and I hope this finds you well. I am joined by the lovely Alice Rose, and we have just realised that it is Mental Health Awareness Week, which I think is a really fitting time to be recording this podcast. And actually, I've done a lot of posts this week about stress and fertility and the links between the two, because I think it's a really complicated area, and one of the most common things that we hear in clinic, and I'm going to ask you about this, Alice, as well, is around this idea that is stress causing my infertility. And the stress is absolutely overwhelming. Like, where do you go with it? What do you do with it? How do you reconcile that in your mind? And I know this is a big area of your work. So before we go into that, do you want to introduce yourself in case anybody doesn't know who you are?
Yes, thank you very much for having me. And hello, my name is Alice Rose and I am a fertility mindset mentor and transformative coach. Totally didn't plan to do that with my life, but here we go. I think that's what happens a lot, isn't it? That you end up going through a fertility experience yourself. And then personally, what happened with me is that I just found out that there were lots of ways that I could rearrange how I was feeling day to day, even before I knew what my outcome was going to be. And I just felt like this was so revelatory, and I didn't hear anybody saying it at the time, that I really just felt compelled to try to help other people. And that's why I set up my Instagram account 5 years ago. I can't believe it's 5 years ago now. But yeah, and it was purely just to try to share the things that had helped me. And then as it went on, I became aware that there was things in society which actually were really not helpful, like the things that people say. And that's something we can speak with on the stress and fertility, like the just relax comments and all of that business. So I started to campaign campaign for better awareness, so that people realize that their comments were so important, and that they continue to that continues to be a real interest and passion of mine as well. But yeah, that's one side of my work, and then everything else I do is helping people with their mindset and their mental health while they go through it all.
And do you think in the last 5 years, do you think things have changed? Do you think there is a wider awareness of what not to say, or having a wider awareness of being more sensitive to people?
See, I thought that was the case, but the thing is that I live in this echo chamber of fertility conversations. And often I don't know what's going on outside the fertility world because I'm so immersed in it. And sometimes it takes Simon, my husband, to be like, "Oh, hey, did you hear about this thing that's happened?" I'm like, "Oh God, no, I didn't even hear it." So I have to actively make sure I'm connected with what's going on in the world properly. But so I do think things have definitely changed. There are more conversations about it, and that's really positive. However, there's still loads and loads and loads of work to do on it. Like we're very far away from where I have a vision in my head of what the world could be, where fertility conversations happen ethically for a start, appropriately, and that they actually support those going through it in reducing their stress rather than adding to it, which is a major issue.
Yeah, and it never fails to surprise me, and you would think that it would, but people often tell me the stories when we work in clinic one-to-one about things that people have said to them around either miscarriage, baby loss, infertility, IVF, donor. Somebody has always got a tale, a story, a repeat conversation of something that someone said that is so hurtful, that has been so flippant but so hurtful, that I think you're right. I think it is changing in some ways, but in other ways it really isn't.
Yeah, there's still loads of work to do on it, isn't there? And the issue, I think, in that, like, what I do as somebody who helps and supports people with their mindset, and and I work on dissolving triggers for people and helping them to make, pregnancy announcements less painful, or understand how they can cope with them and create their strategies in order to do so, and all of that. But it really isn't just down to the people who are going through it. It does need to be a two-way street where the society needs to catch up with actually the reality of what people are experiencing, and the narrative that we have in the media and everything. Just, it's so often you'll see people, like a celebrity couple, for example, might share that, which is great. It's always great to hear about fertility stuff because it helps to spread awareness, etc. But if you see a kind of celebrity couple sharing that they've been through some sort of fertility issue, you will have so many comments underneath that post that say, go on holiday, you just need to relax, blah, blah, blah. And so every time that happens, I just think, oh yeah, no, the wider world still doesn't get it at all.
Yeah, absolutely. Who's the actor? Oh, I can't remember his name. Who's like 76, who's been in the news. Oh, no, can't
Who is
remember.
it?
There's
Oh, I don't know.
It's really famous. I'm so bad at actors, and I can never remember anyone's famous names. Robert De Niro, that's it.
Oh, there you
Robert
go.
De Niro.
He is famous.
I mean, he's pretty famous, isn't he? He has just announced that his partner is having a child, and he is 76, 78.
I did not hear this. Wow.
So it's, yeah. And I, like you say, I haven't read around it or anything, because I just think there'd be all kinds of conversations around that, a lot of which will be unhelpful. But it's a difficult thing, isn't it? Like what that sort of says and how we react to that situation. It sort of says a lot, I think.
Definitely. And the thing is, what can happen is that when you get one unhelpful comment that may come from a friend, for example, what tends to happen is that people then massively retreat. Like they may have opened up a little bit because they needed to get some sort of, they were looking for support. And what can often happen, and I'm sure you've seen this as well, is that you'll say one thing and then the friend might say something that's just really unhelpful, or just and it's not particularly their fault and they're well-meaning and all of that. But what happens is that person then retreats because it was too difficult to deal with the uncomfortable feelings that then come up once you hear that unhelpful comment. You get really, you can feel the kind of anger and rage, and it's not specifically directed towards them. It's that kind of isolated frustration of just like, I'm not being heard. Like my experience is not being heard. I'm not being seen. This isn't being validated. If someone just says, oh, well, give it another 6 months, or you haven't been trying that long, or you're just young, you'll be fine, or whatever it is, some platitude, something that's not hearing them. So it makes you feel really angry. It makes you feel unseen. It makes you feel like you're overreacting, or it might make you feel all these different things that confuse you and then lead to further isolation. So then you end up with all these people, that's what happens in my membership. People saying, oh gosh, yeah, thank God, I feel the same too. This is the first time I've felt validated or heard. All these people behind closed doors, like cutting themselves off from friends and family. And even, the professionals that are there supposed to be supporting them in their treatment might say things that are really unhelpful. Something I'm very passionate about trying to change as well. And it's such a shame, because then we know that connection and relationships are very important for happiness. There's been studies on it. We know that that's really important. So if people are blocking themselves off and isolating themselves, it's going to add to the stress, which is really such an unfortunate, thing that's going to just layer on the difficult parts of the experience, isn't it?
Absolutely. And you also do like a lot of work around like mindsets, which is such an interesting word, isn't it? And also why I was doing a lot of work around this idea that, your mindset influences your outcomes, which, I had somebody only this morning in clinic who has sadly just experienced a miscarriage. And she was asking me that she felt that because she was not feeling hopeful for her treatment, that it was that kind of mindset that has caused the outcome of that treatment round. And, I was very, often I really try not to give an opinion. I try to, stick to the facts, because that is the most helpful place to be. And I was like, look, I'm going to send you the evidence, because we cannot think ourselves pregnant. We cannot think ourselves to not be pregnant. It's not because we weren't hoping. It's not because we weren't optimistic. And that is such a common thing. And it's so difficult, isn't it? Because that's where it gets really tied into this, oh, if you just relax, it's going to happen type of scenario, that it's that simple. And I know you do a lot of work around that, which I think is so important, because people are really sort of knotted up on how to unpick that and what to think.
Absolutely. It's a bit of a minefield, because once you get into the idea of working on your mindset, and I'm always very clear that I focus on the ability to find a truth, so that you're honoring your truth of where you're at day to day, rather than kind of trying to only think positive thoughts because you've heard that you need to do that in order to manifest a pregnancy or sustain a pregnancy. What I have found time and time and time again is that actually this just elevates the stress, because it's all, adds to the idea that we have to do it. We've got to stay positive. Um, and actually, what's much less stressful is honoring the truth of where you're at day to day. And the mindset work comes in by looking at things in a way that you're giving yourself back the power, in that you can look at your thoughts as something that you do have ownership over. So while you might find that you're having a thought that might say, I'm feeling really fucking scared, actually, don't know if I can swear on this podcast, I'm assuming that I can.
Yeah, can.
I thought I might. I'm feeling really, really scared. Oh no, I can't think that. I've just got to think positive. I've just got to think positive. But then you're not giving the space to the fear. You're not giving yourself the grace to just allow yourself the compassion, to find the self-compassion in order to give yourself what you need. And when we're scared, we need comfort, and we need gentle, soothing words, and we might need a hug. And so if we don't let ourselves feel that and hear that, then we just kind of like bypass all of that, and then we keep it inside, and then we're not getting what we need, which is comfort and soothing, which might be something that we can give to ourselves if we really work on our mindset and allow ourselves to believe that there are thoughts that we can take ownership over. So we can actually feel the fears, feel it, and then say to ourselves, okay, I'm feeling scared. This is okay. This is normal to feel scared. I'm also going to lean into the support that I have. I'm going to decide that I'm going to take it 1 minute at a time today. So it doesn't have to be really forced. It can just be honoring the truth of where you're at day to day. And that's where mindset can radically shift how you experience things.
And that's really important, isn't it? Like the differentiation of what mindset is, like that, as opposed to, if you think positive thoughts and think of, I don't know, baby chickens, everything is going to be okay, because it's not like that. And I always think that we see lots of people doing 1,000,001 things to support their fertility, and everyone's always on this kind of, what is the one thing that I can do that is going to give me the outcome? And, we always say there isn't, if there was one thing, everyone would be doing it. It's like, there is no one size fits all. It's about what works for you, what you can manage, what works in your situation. It's so tailored, because there's no solution, is there? Really, there is no solution. A lot of the time, people don't really know. We know these things might help optimize your cycle, they might optimize a sperm result, but nobody really can guarantee, because there's so much around fertility that is not understood. Even in IVF, where there's so much science, so much amazing technology, there's so much where doctors are like, we don't know why. And that's a really difficult place to sit, isn't it? When you've got unexplained infertility, you don't know why, there's no obvious reason. It's a very, very, very difficult thing to live with, and to sort of speak to yourself in a kind way, because often what I see, and I imagine you do too, is that people always blame themselves. Always. They go to themselves first. And I think that's really sad and difficult, and also wrong, because we don't have that control, I don't think.
Yes. And this is the thing. This is what I think, that the number one thing that you can do is to prioritize your mindset and prioritize your mental well-being. That's your number one thing. Because then when you go into anything else, when you're researching anything else, that's where you go, right, I'm going to go into this with the mindset of, I am safe. I am taking ownership of what is going on for me. I am supported, whatever it is that you need to feel, in order to then go and look at all of the information that you might have, a barrage of information that's coming at you. And if you're not able to first prepare yourself mindset wise to process that, and then decide, there's loads and loads of micro decisions, bigger decisions, ginormous decisions that need to be made time and time again throughout a fertility journey. And in order to make those decisions, in order to have that clarity and perspective, and to make empowered and informed decisions, we've got to be in a good place first of all. We've got to put our
Mm.
roots down, our mindset down. That's the number one thing that you do, and then you're able to move forward. So it's not that that positive thoughts is going to magically equal a pregnancy, but it is that you can learn what to do with your thoughts and your body to soothe your nervous system. It's a kind of two-way thing, isn't it? A linked thing,
Mm.
in order to then absorb the information you need and make the decisions that are going to move you forward. So it's a bit more nuanced than this idea of just like, magically skip to the end. And it's
Yeah.
important to say that, because otherwise you do go into self-blame, and that's going to just
Yeah.
make things even more difficult for you.
And I mean, the reason that I started the podcast was really to try and get as much helpful information to people as possible, because obviously I know that not everyone can afford or has the accessibility to see an acupuncturist. People don't want to spend time with a reflexologist, or that one-to-one contact isn't available to everybody. But there's lots of things I think that we talk about in clinic and that we can offer from our training that can really help. So from your background and what you offer, like how does it work, and how do people get involved, and what do you do?
Right. So what I do is essentially teach people my Liferaft framework, which is something that I've developed over the last
Yeah.
few years. And the Liferaft framework is all about giving ownership back to my clients, because exactly as you say, they often come to me, and I was exactly the same, which is why I do what I do, feeling really overwhelmed, feeling like they have no control, feeling like they are living in limbo, they're in the wait, their friends and family don't understand. And what I've created is really a map to sort of navigate your way through this. And it's never about me telling other people what to do. It's always about them finding the answers for themselves. Exactly as you said, no one size fits all in acupuncture or in any other, the practical steps you take towards trying to become a parent. It's the same with your mindset, so something that works for me isn't necessarily going to work for someone else. So the Life Raft helps people to
Mm.
understand that actually there are things that they can do. There's always, always, always something that you can do that is going to make you feel better, and this is, comes from
Mm.
transformative coaching models, but also positive psychology, emotional intelligence, neuroscience. There's so much evidence to show that there is potential for things to feel better, to feel easier. And that's always that's never about not honoring where you are and not honoring the pain or the grief that you've experienced. And that's really important to say. This Mental Health Awareness Week, so I'm not a mental health professional, I'm a coach, and that there is a difference there. So we need to
Yeah.
make sure, again, it comes back to that kind of ethical communications with the people, with the practitioners that you're working with. Be conscious of what their qualifications are. If you need to see a GP because you're feeling depressed, then that's what you need to go and do. But
Yeah.
or do you need to come and join the Life Raft or work on your mindset with a qualified coach like me and with a mentor and with a support system? There are different things, but it's about tapping into what you need day to day, and it has to be kind of consistent. I always say, like, it's like the brushing your teeth analogy. We brush our teeth every day because we need to maintain our dental hygiene, right? We drink water,
Yeah.
we eat food, whatever. Why are we not doing it for our mindset? It just baffles me that it's not put up there on the priority list. Brush your mindset teeth every day, and it really is around consistency, and that's what I support people with.
And so so what do people do? Do they sign up for your membership? Is it like an online program that they do themselves, or is it like they join a membership and there's live events, or is it both?
So yeah, it's kind of both. So at the moment, I have two kind of separate things. At the moment, I'm running my course, which is Reclaim, the program that is actually separate to the Life Raft, but that's a live program which I'm running right now. But the Life Raft comes in, and there's kind of three elements. So you come in, you get access straight away to the Life Raft framework, which I teach you on this onboard pathway, which I've created. So there's like a 10-step onboard pathway. And then you immediately gain access to the community and loads and loads and loads of resources in there as well. So I've been running this now for 2.5 years, and I've done lots and lots of, you've come in and given a talk for my members, haven't you? So there's a brilliant session with you. There's people, all kinds of people from the kind of fertility world, but also from the coaching world. And like, I've done a great session with my friend who's a stylist, my friend Stevie B Style, who is a A-list stylist, but she's also a body acceptance mentor. So we talk about how to, love your body and all of that stuff. So it's really a library of resources that people can access on demand as well, and live support. We do live calls as well.
And I presume it's for anybody at any stage, no
It
matter
is.
whether they're like trying to conceive naturally, whether they've been through rounds of IVF. Is it like for the whole kind of expanse of different people?
Yes, it is. So we have separate chats within the group so that you can find
Right.
people who are on similar places to you.
Yeah.
And that's helpful, I think, because, we have women who are, and it is for women only at the moment. I've done the course with couples, actually. So we've had men doing the course before, but the membership is for women, people who identify as women. And it's in the chats, we have things like secondary infertility, because I think that specifically, I've always have people saying, well, I just don't know if I can talk about my child who's at home, but at the same time, I need the support, which is really important. And
Yeah.
so we have separate chat for that. We have separate chat for male factor infertility. We have just all kinds of donor conception. It's in there. So you can just find people who are not just going through the same thing, but are also interested on working on their mindset as they go through it. So it's very much a positive space. And I've also created a separate chat for those kind of survival days where you do just need to go, this is so hard. But what I've done is move it away from the main space, because I do want that main space to feel hopeful, to feel positive, and to feel uplifting. And I think that that's important.
Yeah. I think it's really important. And I think it's just like you were saying about brushing your teeth is a really, really good analogy, because that's the thing that I think is often missed, because I don't hear it very often in clinics, especially, that people are always reminded, take your supplements. This is when you've got to do your medication. This is when you need to come in for your scans. But this idea of checking in with like how are you feeling? How's your mental health? How are you feeling in your body? Where is the stress kind of coming out? Is your digestion gone? Has your sleep gone? All of those things can be real signs that your mindset needs that daily attention. And you're so right. You've really hit the nail on the head, because that's what it is. It needs that concerted, conscious daily address when you are going through something like this. Because often I think it's often when people are in a point of crisis, or they're feeling like really on the floor, that people suddenly go, okay, this is what I need to do. There's something now. But I think a little and often, and being very sort of consciously aware of it, can really make the difference before you reach that point.
Totally. And it's also, it's, again, to use another analogy, because I love an analogy, it's a bit like the whole, cleaning your house thing. Like if you're doing it all the time regularly, you're just going to maintain this kind of good standard. And then sometimes you might decide that you're going to really go for it. And maybe you want to add in something really fabulous to your nice clean house. Whereas if you don't do it for, you don't do any cleaning for a month, 2 months, you're going to need to do more work. You're going to need to do some more deep cleaning to get your house back up to that standard. And it really is exactly the same when it comes to our internal narrative, what we're telling ourselves, how we speak to ourselves. I have people come to me and say, I'm completely stuck on a loop of negative thought patterns. I can't get out of it. And I'm always like, I know it's so hard, and I totally empathize. And you can stop this. Like, there are ways that you can do it. And I never say that lightly. I know that there are things that might make it more difficult for people if they do have other mental health diagnoses, that they're working mental illness, which is different to mental health, or they might be neurodivergent or whatever it is. But you need to no one else out there knows what's going on in your mind. You're the only person. So we do have to take ownership. We have to take a role in understanding what we need. And if it is that you need one-to-one support because you do need extra help, find out where that is. And I know that again might be difficult to hear, because perhaps it's hard to find the one-to-one support. Maybe it's out of reach financially. Where else can you get it? Maybe the Liferaft. Look at where it's possible to find out what you can do for yourself.
Yeah, I mean, it always amazes me that you don't get more support through the IVF clinics themselves. I know they all have counsellors in-house that that are there and are available for people going through treatment, but the number of sessions that people are offered is, it barely scratches the surface. And I think people really struggle as to where to go to get help. So it's really good to have as many options. And I guess I always say to people, it's about exploring the options, isn't it? Because we don't know what's right for one person and another person, but it's about knowing what's out there so you can really investigate and make a choice for yourself, I think.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, there's not enough support. They're trying.
No.
It's good. But the problem
Yeah.
is that, there's only so many people who are qualified in this area, who know what they're talking about, who can do it. And that also, it's hard to find somebody that you resonate with. So even if they do provide somebody from your clinic, you might not get on with them, or you might just feel like, oh, I don't know, this isn't, do you know what I mean? So it's up to us individually to go, okay, maybe even if I do have 3 one-to-one sessions through the support in my clinic, that's great. But it's down to me to learn how to continue this day to day, and not even just when you're going through something like this. That's why I call it the Liferaft. It is for your life. It's for every stage, every chapter.
Yeah. So So it is about more support, isn't it? Like more support, continually offering the support, and awareness raising that there is different ways of getting support out there that people might not necessarily know about, which is why I really wanted you to come on. I'm sure most people know who you are, especially if people are on Instagram, but maybe there are people out there who listen to this podcast and are really looking at ways they can support themselves. And I think what you offer is really, really helpful. So thank you for coming on and telling us all about it. When are you running your next course again?
I don't know. That is a good question. I'm not sure. We're only in we're sort of on week 2 at the moment for a 6-week course. So
Okay.
I normally only run it once or max twice a year. So I'm not sure, but it could be that I make this a self-paced option as well, which I'm considering doing. But the Liferaft is open, and that is an amazing place to not just get support, but really grow through all of this. I want people to feel like they're not stuck, even though there are things that you can't change. There are lots of things that we can do internally that make us feel like we are moving forward, even though with other stuff we can't.
And it is something that I say quite a lot in clinic. In many ways, the only thing that we can control is the conversations that we have with ourselves, and what our thoughts are doing, because in so many things of this journey, things are out of your control. Whether you're going through treatment, whether you're trying to conceive naturally, so much of that is your biology going on, or the treatment protocol you've been given by your GP or by your consultant. So really, it is the only thing, and taking your vitamins, that we have some control over, and we can do something about. We can actively address and do something about.
Yeah, it's totally and utterly life-changing. I felt it myself in my own lived experience.
Yeah.
I've seen it hundreds and hundreds of times now. There is a way through that feels so much better, which is why I'm over here waving the flag, and always will be for that, and trying to stop people from saying just relax as well.
Yeah. Oh, if only. Well, thank you very, very, very much for coming on. It's been really lovely to speak to you, and I will put all your notes and all the links in the show notes so people can access that, and your Instagram as well. So thank you very much for your time. It's much appreciated.
Absolute pleasure. Thank you so much.
If you've enjoyed listening to this and want to find out more, then come and join my free community in Facebook. We have loads of resources. You can catch up on all our previous webinars and be the first to know about forthcoming events. To sign up, just follow the link in the show notes. And if you'd like to work one-to-one with myself or one of the team, then please see our website, hannahpern.com, where you can book in directly or organise a discovery call to find out how we can support your fertility and your reproductive health.